Welcome to Hops and Monsters. This is a weekly podcast of uninhibited nerdery. I'm Charlie.
I'm Ben.
We've got a guest in studio tonight.
What's up? I'm Jason.
It's Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going with you?
Good, man. Good. It's good to actually be on the show and just drink some beers and talk about comic books, man.
That sounds like a plan. Yeah. What are we drinking? So we went and got some comic book themed beers. If that's
so you're drinking the Heroin.
I'm drinking Heroin IPA. Which really looks like the Dark Phoenix, Jean Grey.
It's totally Jean Grey.
Rising from the fire there. That's from 101 North Brewing there in Petaluma, I think. This is one of the best IPAs out there. So
it's one of my favorites.
Thanks. What are you drinking? You got something?
I'm drinking Heretic Evil Twin.
What is that? Is that the Joker on the front of that?
It looks like the Joker with like a goatee, but yeah, it definitely does resemble the Joker quite a bit. You know,
so it kind of fits the theme. Yeah.
And what do you got, Ben?
I'm drinking the limited run of Sonoma Cider, the Crowbar.
Yeah.
It's a habanero lime cider.
Excellent.
Which a lot of you probably was like, what the fuck, dude? How can you drink that? It's so delicious. It's like a margarita in a can. The best margarita I've ever had.
It's like the holy grail.
It's an intense flavor experience. Yeah.
I was so happy you picked this up tonight, man. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to see it. Whenever you see something that says limited run in a grocery store.
Happy early birthday, man.
Yeah, happy birthday.
My birthday was 4 months ago.
Happy birthday, Ben.
Well, it's late or early, depending on how you look at it.
I don't know if the listener can hear, but it's a dark and stormy night out here while we're recording. So if there's rain in the background, it
sounds like someone's
ambiance.
Just taking a piss on the porch right outside the window constantly.
That's God for you, just interrupting our plans with his own.
Yeah, he's just pissing all over us.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I like it.
We need the urine.
We need it.
Water. I mean,
the water. Yeah, the water.
Yeah,
it's
I don't think urine's.
We are in a drought.
Yeah, we'll take anything at this point. All right, so we're going to talk about comic books tonight, which is something I've been wanting to talk about since we started this podcast.
We had to hold off on this just so we could get Jason on because he is the comic book fucking master.
Oh.
I don't want to consider myself the master, but
big shoes to step into here.
I do know a lot about it. So,
well, how long have you been reading comic books?
I've been reading comic books since I was, 8 years old.
Yeah, I think that's about right for me. Ben, what were you, like 8?
Yeah, probably. I think that's how I taught myself to read.
Okay.
By reading comic books.
Yeah, absolutely.
My dad likes to take credit for that. He thinks that he was reading me Lord of the Rings, at the age of 6 or 7. And, I was like, no, I really wasn't even paying attention.
So it was like the Rosetta Stone for Ben.
Kind of. I started looking at the pictures in the comic books, and then I started trying to phonetically enunciate the sound effects of people getting hit in the face and
the kapows and
exactly.
The wham. Yeah.
I wanted to know how to pronounce that, so they taught me how to read. No joke. I
do you remember
the
first comic books you read? I kind of like the origin story of all this. Like, do you remember the first one?
The very first one I had, I think, was a very early issue of Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, okay.
Super old school. I mean, just out of Silver Age.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, of course, and I remember I have the first. I still have them too. They're in thrash condition. I've got some original Chris Claremont X-Men's.
Oh, cool.
The Dark Phoenix saga.
Ones. The 80s.
We've got the Spider-Man in particular, the run where Cloak and Dagger were introduced. I was really intrigued by that storyline. I've got those.
Cool.
Later on, after getting older, I think I started discovering stuff that was kind of under the radar, like Grendel by Matt Wagner.
Yeah. I know. I want to talk about Grendel more with you because that one is just such
a
bizarre.
It's because they had a crossover with Batman too.
Anti-hero.
That's probably the only place anyone's ever really heard that.
He kind of got that taste.
Even if you are a comic fan,
I like that. He got the
you'd only hear it from the crossover with Batman
appearance. Yeah.
And things like The Crow, I've got the first pressings, like it's vinyl.
Okay. No, those are actually expensive these days
Caliber
too.
ones?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, if the first printing of any comic book, if it's the
first
title.
appearance of somebody or something in it,
I would think that the first appearance of them would be in the first issue, but don't quote me on that. I don't think it is. Of Crow?
No,
sure.
It was just Caliber Comics, The Crow.
Oh, okay.
There was a 4-issue run, then there was a 3-issue run that they reprinted, and then of course I bought the trade paperback. And I was dating this girl at the time when I was like 20, and she actually painted the cover of issue number 2 on the back of my leather jacket, and she nailed it. It looked so fucking perfect. And I gave that jacket away many years ago. I'm so angry.
Rough.
Should have held on to it.
That sucks. All right, Jason, what's your first comic books?
This is going to actually kind of sound silly. My first comic book I ever received was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle adventure comic.
Oh, I had a few of those too. The black and white ones.
Well, no, it wasn't the Eastman Lard ones. This was actually Archie Comics is the one that released this.
They had an appearance of the teenage.
No, they actually.
When anything says adventures after the title, it's like the kids version. Like
Yeah. No, they weren't cutting people up. I think they were pretty much just eating pizza all the time. It was really based. I think it was more based on the
straight eating pizza.
The cartoon.
The cartoon, sure.
Yeah. So.
Which, gotta love that though. I mean.
Because I was a huge Ninja Turtle fan. I think my mom bought me an issue of it, and I just got hooked. And I said, I want more. I want more. And then after a while, she sort of like influenced me. If you want your own comic books, go down to the supermarket, pick whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know much about this stuff. And I picked up some issues of Captain America. I picked up some issues of Spider-Man, X-Men, and then I just got hooked from there. And it was funny because in junior high school, with a bunch of my friends we had our own little comic book club. So we'd all kind of like trade comic books and talk about them and whatnot. And
nice.
We also would be huge addicts of like the Marvel trading cards. I'm not even sure if you actually collected those.
Dude, I got a whole stack of those somewhere.
Yeah.
Those old cards.
Yeah, it was crazy because it would have like the stats on the back. Like if it was like
stats.
Yeah, it'd be like, okay,
Wolverine's
what was
got an adamantium skeleton.
Yeah,
it gives him a +4.
his first appearance of the character. What was their favorite food? I mean, this is just silly, really.
What is Wolverine's favorite food? Can you name it off the top of your head?
God, I don't know. Beer?
Blood. Beer probably. Steak.
He should be
raw
on this
meat.
podcast then.
Yeah. Yeah, Wolverine would fit in nicely here.
He'd be happy here.
Yeah, so it just bled into more Marvel comics, and then when I got my hands on my first Batman comic book, that was just where everything kind of just changed because I didn't really focus. I didn't like lean on to a certain superhero, like this is my superhero. I kind of just, read the comic books and I was like, yeah, I really like these stories, but this isn't somebody like I totally identify with. I didn't really identify with Batman per se, but I think the whole basis of him, why he does what he does, the origin of him, and his rogues gallery is just the best in any comic book I've ever read in my life. So
yeah, I think as a kid it's kind of hard to identify with Batman.
He's kind of adult, and kind of scary, and
it's pretty hardcore.
He's kind of unstable. You don't really
just a little.
You don't really feel like you're being rescued by a hero, if Batman comes and saves the day.
Well, it depends if it's the Adam West Batman, because that's actually before I read the comic books, I actually saw the television show from the '60s. I think it was on the Family Channel.
He's definitely a hero.
Yeah, that
very campy.
That kind of was my experience too. I remember watching the Adam West and then watching the '70s Super Friends cartoons. You ever watch those old?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Be like,
was it like
meanwhile,
Hanna-Barbera?
at the Legion of Doom, and it would be
the
like,
Hall of Justice.
Yeah, it's the Hall of Justice, and that's kind of that's where I first found out about Batman and superheroes, and then comic books came in. Spider-Man was the one I really grew up on. X-Men. Avengers, kind of overall Avengers.
So were you more of a Marvel or DC?
I would have to say, growing up, probably definitely Marvel. DC beyond Batman just didn't really do much for me.
Yeah, their hero roster was just a little bit ridiculous.
No, it's not that bad. You just have to. I mean, it's different.
I love Superman. I find myself defending Superman a lot in conversation because I think he's a perfect, prototype, stereotype.
Oh,
superhero.
Angry Joe would agree with you.
Yeah, it doesn't get any more pure. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Angry Joe.
He's a fanatic.
He's huge into Superman for some reason.
Well, because he's the man.
I love his
Superman
channel.
is the superhero. He started the whole thing. He kicks everything off in the 30s.
I think it was 1939.
And,
Action Comics #1 came out.
A little bit before Batman, but he is the guy that sets the table and he sets the example. And I think people aren't really into Superman as much anymore because of the bad movies and everyone's trying to reinvent him. And it's like you don't have to reinvent him. He is the guy. He is pure.
I kind of like Henry Cavill's portrayal of him. I thought Man of Steel was actually a really good movie.
Yeah, I don't think it was that bad. I think they just are trying to go too dark.
I like that though. I like the dark stuff. That's why I like Batman of all.
Yeah, but that's why you have Batman. So for the dark, Superman, he should be. Christopher Reeves.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Superman, right?
I think Christopher Reeve was probably the best Superman.
Yeah, those first two Superman films were actually really good for the time.
That is the embodiment when I think of Superman. It's like he's pure, he's a gentleman, he is
chivalrous.
He's pretty uncomplicated when it comes down to it. He's just truth, justice, American way. What else do you need? I mean,
he'll save cats out of trees. So
yeah, exactly.
That's
He is.
the kind of
He is a
Superman
Boy Scout.
he is.
He's a Boy Scout, and I think Batman is definitely the guy that you get into more when you're an adult and you become cynical and and you're like, oh yeah, everything is kind of fucked up and unfair, and I really wish I could.
They're just polar opposites of each other.
Yeah. They work well together, but yeah, I mean, I love that about the comic book club because I kind of did the same thing.
Yeah.
It's
Now it just occurred to me that this new with Captain America's Winter Soldier. Would you say that that's Marvel's attempt at sort of a Batman Superman clash?
Well, definitely like the Civil War stuff they did. Yeah, definitely. Well, it's
Captain
funny
America
because
being Superman,
it's such a,
Tony Stark being Batman.
The Marvel DC, they're such a mirror image of each other. You got Superman
That's what I'm talking
and Captain
about.
America.
It's exactly like that.
Right. You've got exactly. It's like they've even got the Flash versus Quicksilver. It's like you both invented a guy that just runs really fast. Like that's what some of it. They've got Namor the Submariner.
Right.
They've got
Aquaman, which is kind of ridiculous.
So, yeah.
Why would a guy who's a fucking prince in Atlantis want to be a superhero?
No, he's a dick. Namor's a dick. Or Aquaman's
no, Namor is. Aquaman.
I think they're both dicks.
Yeah. They're of the sea. They don't get it. They don't understand our ways.
Yeah, no one really gravitated towards them. They were like the least favorite, I mean, you don't say DC Comics and go, oh, by the way, Aquaman's my favorite character.
Dude, I don't know.
You can't have a Justice League without Aquaman.
This guy I work with was just like, yeah, I'm really excited about that Aquaman movie coming out. I was like, really? Okay.
Well, it's Jason Momoa is playing him, and he's actually...
It looks cool. I mean, he's cool.
Not a bad guy.
I'm sure it'll be great. But yeah, it was just so funny. I was talking to this guy the other day. He's like... we were talking about Deadpool had just come, and we'd both watched Deadpool, so we're talking about, and he's like, yeah, I'm really excited about that Aquaman movie. I was like, okay.
Dude, I watched Deadpool a couple weeks ago, but I don't remember a fucking thing about it.
A lot of jokes, and then he shoots a guy.
I was just really distracted when it was on.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, Ben must have been really distracted, apparently, if you cannot pay attention to a movie that awesome.
Well, this girl I was hanging out with was more interesting.
We don't need to get into these stories, Ben. Jesus.
I'm just saying you got to watch it a second time and actually sit down and watch it.
She wanted to see it too, but she doesn't remember a damn thing about it either.
Well, that's a good thing. It's a second
viewing,
so
officially
go for
bragging about his exploits on the
I'm
podcast.
just saying that I really wanted to see the movie and enjoy it, but I don't remember a damn thing.
Fair enough. When you were a kid, what's favorite storyline, favorite guy who gets killed, favorite thing? I mean, what was there a moment that kind of hooked you and you became? I mean, you go even further down the rabbit hole. It's like,
basically, Amazing Spider-Man was one of my favorite titles too that I like to read a lot.
That was
and
a good
then
one.
when we got into the whole Venom story when he first appeared, I thought it was amazing that we had a character that looked like Spider-Man, but he was not Spider-Man. He was just the pure evil creature.
It was a costume.
It was a
Venom,
symbiote
right?
costume that he wore
yeah.
that Spider-Man had in Secret Wars, and it was controlling Spider-Man because it made him feed off of his dark thoughts. So he would say, if he went to a club or something like that, and he would just start a fight, Spider-Man would kind of walk away. Because he's like, all right, if I punch this guy in the face, he's going to die or
Darth
something.
Vader. I mean,
Yeah, so I found myself really into that storyline, and the fight between them was just an awesome fight. I think it was...
Couldn't agree more, yeah. The black costume is one of the great redesigns of any kind of character costume, any look. And then when they kind of turned that into this whole other alien... enemy, and that's like some next level.
Yeah, because they just fed off the story and they made it a whole nother story about, all right, we're going to take this thing and we're going to put it and make it bigger than what it was before.
Right.
And it's crazy to think about it. And to this day, Venom is still one of the most highly, anticipated, celebrated villain. But he's more of like an anti-hero now because he's not evil, but he at the same time doesn't like Spider-Man, so he just I'm gonna kill this guy.
So Venom and Spider-Man are now two different characters?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
out of
yeah.
the
I think
loop
so.
here.
I mean, I don't
What's-
think Spider-Man like has a.
I
Like,
thought Venom was just a costume he wore.
Well, no, Venom. The Spider-Man got rid of the costume, so he had to drive the costume away. The costume is only vulnerable to sonic blasts
yeah.
or fire. So I think in the comic books, kind of like in the church in the movies, he hits it with the sonic blast. The costume flies off of him, attaches itself to Eddie Brock, who's a rival.
Okay, got it.
And so Eddie is.
Yeah, Eddie was.
And I don't know if Eddie's still the Venom.
They changed it. I mean,
probably
it's a
someone else
big.
at this-
It's
it was
like
a
a
lady
long
maybe at some
story of
point.
what's
Yeah.
happened over time. I mean, the last thing that I remember is a symbiote gave birth per se to another symbiote, which clinged on to an individual named Cletus Cassidy.
Oh, right.
Who was a
Carnage.
psychopath.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he became Carnage.
Yeah.
So he was pretty much, think Venom, but like to the extreme fact that I'm just going to kill everybody. Like, I got no restraints.
Yeah, Maximum Carnage. You ever read that series? That story?
Yeah, no, that was a great series.
That was a bloodbath. Man.
That was a good video game, too, by the way, on the SNES.
Yeah.
I remember the cartridge was red, too.
Oh, yeah. It was like Super NES or
Yeah,
so
it was Super
popped in the
Nintendo.
top.
I think it was also on Genesis, but it came out and
Yeah.
it was a red. But the cool thing about that game was you can be Spider-Man and Venom. So pretty much two playable characters, and you just... God, I didn't remember beating it. It was so hard after you got to...
You know, that's such a good call with Venom because that... I was kind of the same way. It's like... Basically, Venom was just the coolest, craziest. He's got this perverted kind of sense of justice, but he hates Spider-Man. He was kind of like
Yeah.
Gollum. He was kind of like the Gollum of Spider-Man. It was like...
Yeah, it was just a
totally
human... Yeah,
freakazoid character that...
he was a guy who just had a dislike for Peter Parker.
And it lends itself so well to the art. I mean, that's one of the best characters for artwork.
Yeah,
the drawing and the large mouth and the moving.
Yeah, it was basically his first appearance, and for a while it was Todd McFarlane who drew him.
Right, yeah.
And Todd McFarlane's art in Spider-Man was amazing. Like, I love the way he drew that character, and I don't know if necessarily he was the guy that created Venom, but he was the first person to actually draw him.
That's a good question. Yeah, I do remember that those drawings are so
I imagine he
outrageous.
was. I mean, he made so much money off of Venom. He was able to start Image Comics, right?
I'm not really sure if that's how he got his income to make or create.
McFarlane also drew Batman for a while in the 80s.
Yeah.
And he drew Batman with this giant, crazy cape that he would do with Spawn later. But that cape design.
Yeah, actually, I do own an issue where McFarlane did a Batman cover, but it was an amazing cover. He's like holding some woman, but the cape is just enveloping her. It's so dark, but it's a really good cover. I don't remember what number that is, but yeah.
Wikipedia says McFarlane's credited as the co-creator of Eddie Brock and Venom.
Yeah.
Co-creator.
Well, who's the other co-creator? Stan Lee?
The
Because he
guy
has to
who
have
was
his name and
writing
everything?
it, the writer. So, because McFarlane was just the artist on those.
Oh.
David Michelin, maybe. Michelin. Anyways, yeah. So, well, Spawn was one of my favorites growing up, too.
Oh, yeah. Spawn
in
was
the
awesome.
90s, at least. It was one of those where it's like I started collecting kind of in the late 80s, moving into the 90s. That's when comics had that explosion of popularity.
Yeah, they just blew up.
And they're not, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like the collector's market's kind of out the door at that point because they're printing so many copies of the issue.
Yeah, it's like where whatever you buy and you own, you think like, okay, 20 years from now this is gonna be worth something, but
it's just
no,
the first
not
issue
anymore.
or first appearance of an iconic character is the only thing that matters now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've got the first appearance of Prowler, a Spider-Man villain named Prowler, which is pretty cool.
Wasn't he like he wore a cape or like he had
kind of a purple, almost kind of like a Spawn looking, but purple mask and cape. Yeah, I've got the first appearance of
because purple's
I feel like I've got the first appearance of Deadpool. I don't remember. I used to.
I think that's New Mutants 98. I can't remember.
90 something. Yeah,
90 something. And that book has just skyrocketed in price.
That's probably the most expensive. If I have one most expensive, although I have. We should talk about horror comics too, because I have an old Tomb of Dracula #1, like when they first lifted the comics
Marvel
code.
Comics released the Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah,
That was,
and so Marvel got into the Dracula and the horror comics game in the 70s.
yeah, actually, that's where Blade made his first appearance, was in that series.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
The Vampire
Yeah.
Hunter.
I thought he made his first appearance as Wesley Snipes in that stupid movie.
No, he actually made his
No,
first.
that was based on a comic book.
Yeah, it was a Marvel. If
You
you really
know
think
that.
about it, it's a Marvel comic book movie. So it's one
This
of the
is
early
what
ones.
happens when you show up to a podcast with no research in hand whatsoever. You know,
Well, you
literally
you
last
already
minute.
threw out The Crow, an early '90s movie that
Yeah.
probably no one knew was based on a comic book.
They didn't.
I don't know. I don't know if people, back in the day, they did. We're spoiled with the comic book movies now, but they didn't really make comic book movies in the '80s and '90s.
Still waiting for a
No,
Grendel
actually, they
movie.
did. They made him.
Someone
Well,
make a Grendel film.
Superman and Batman.
Yeah, but,
Tim Burton went in with the Batman, but
Yeah, see,
not
that-
like today, man. Not
No,
like
no,
they
no.
do
The
today.
thing is that in the '90s there was some comic book films that came out. Marvel dipped their hand per se into the money pot and tried to.
Oh, they made 4 different versions of Punisher.
Yeah, they did.
A lot of
they,
Punishers,
They
yeah.
did
Dolph
the
Lundgren
first,
as the
yeah,
Punisher.
The first one was Dolph
And
Lundgren.
then
awesome.
Thomas Jane, and then
Well, yeah,
someone
yeah.
else, and now it's that guy who was
now it's
Shane on Walking Dead.
Netflix. Yeah,
Yeah. They also made a horrible Captain America movie.
they did. I remember watching that movie.
That
back in the
I
early
don't
90s.
really know the actor who played him. I've seen him in some
No.
movies, but that was
It was
horrible.
like straight to video.
Oh,
Yeah.
we got to talk about Daredevil. The Netflix Daredevil.
Sure.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty damn good, and I'm really digging. Luke Cage. I was a huge
Yeah,
fan
well,
of
I
Power
want-
Man and Iron Fist.
Yeah, I haven't.
That's what I was reading as a kid in the 70s.
That's cool.
Master of Kung Fu and Power Man and Iron Fist.
That's cool. Yeah, I liked Luke Cage when I was a kid a little bit, but I didn't really get that far into him. But the Heroes for Hire, I love
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because they were doing something different.
I haven't watched the Luke Cage series yet. I really
It's
want to
pretty
watch
fucking
it.
good, man.
No, it's a good
Punisher makes an
show.
appearance in there. I'm not
Nice.
going to spoil it, but
Oh, I do want to watch it. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, it's a very
Don't
good
spoil
series.
it.
But yeah, no, the movies in the '90s weren't great. I remember in '94, Roger Corman put out a Fantastic Four movie,
Right.
which
I've heard
was
of it.
never
surprising
released.
I've never
Yeah,
heard of
never.
that.
It was never released because it was that bad.
Yeah.
You can watch it on YouTube actually if you want to now, but that movie
Okay.
was very hard to find back then. I remember the first time I heard about it, I rented a movie. I don't recall the movie, but it had a trailer for it. I'm like, oh my god, there's a Fantastic Four movie coming out.
Oh, okay.
And back when I was younger, I mean, it looked amazing. Like I'm like, oh my god. And then nowadays, I'm like, oh god, that looks like shit. It looks horrible.
Why can't they get Fantastic Four right? Out of all the,
I know.
I
Like-
blame Jessica Alba.
it seems like they should be able to do that. Okay, I actually not rewatched, but finally watched that new Fantastic Four that came out 2 years
Fantastic?
ago. Yeah, Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So much potential, and then just nothing happens. It just doesn't go anywhere. It takes them 45 minutes to get their powers. Too long.
Yeah.
Too much origin
Then
story.
2 years pass by apparently.
And then then they don't do anything with them, and then I was like, why can't one guy's
Just give
a
it back
rock,
to
one guy's on fire. Let's go, fight.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Just give it back to Marvel. They'll do something good with it. So
Hopefully.
yeah.
Richard Pryor once said, "When you're on fire, people tend to move out of your way."
Yeah, he should know.
Did he also say flame on?
Flame on!
As he's snorting a line of blow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what he said every time he did a bump. Flame on, motherfucker.
I believe in Superman. It's gonna come and save me.
Well, we've been talking about movies and stuff. I mean, for me, growing up, the best adaptation of any comic book ever, Batman the Animated Series. I love that show so much. I think it's the most true.
Including Killing Joke?
Well, the adaptation of Batman, let's say, outside of comic books. The animated series of the 90s was, for me, the most pure, just perfect adaptation of an old
Mark
school.
Hamill is the Joker?
Mark Hamill as the Joker, the best Joker ever.
If you actually knew, Tim Curry was supposed to be the Joker.
That would have been awesome.
Oh, yeah.
actually.
But something, I'm
Okay,
not sure
coulda-
what happened. I don't know if there's
He was the
scheduling
clown
conflicts.
in It, right?
He was.
Yeah, he was originally. I
Dr.
think
Taylor
he,
made for
Frankenfurter.
that.
I think he tested out for the Joker. I think they just shot an episode with him. It was never aired,
Oh, wow.
and
cool.
I don't think they were really liking the way it went. So
Yeah.
I think Mark Hamill came in and did his version, and they just.
I
loved
remember
it.
that blew my mind when I found out Luke Skywalker was the Joker.
Yeah,
Wait,
that
you
was
mean
the
actors
only other
do
thing
other
he's
things?
famous for.
Yeah.
Besides Corvette Summer.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
really did love the animated series. I still to this day love the animated series.
Yeah.
The cool thing about that was I remember when it first came out, they showed it was on prime time. I think they showed it like at like 8:00 or something.
Oh, okay.
So they showed it a couple episodes at night, and then every episode I just loved the animation in that show. That was such a good show. I think it was Paul Dini worked on it. God, I don't remember. Bruce Timm. Yeah, and
his style. But yeah, a smooth, kind of cartoonish, but it always carried that serious tone.
Yeah, it had
that
a kind of adult
it was
themes
able
to it.
Cross that line. And the movie that they did, The Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh yeah,
dude, that is such a good movie. Like, that is just such a well put together, great, twist at the end, great action at the end.
I mean, that's probably the best cartoon of a comic book I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just because it still sticks in my heart to this day. I think besides Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy is the Batman. I mean,
Exactly.
his voice is
That
just
voice.
so it's so haunting but so awesome at the same time.
And I always loved in that show when Bruce Wayne was kind of the voice that he put on.
Yeah, it was
right?
his voice.
His natural voice is the Batman's tone when he's talking to Alfred or he's by himself. And then when he's out in public, he's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Bruce Wayne."
Yeah.
He kind of has the higher... It wasn't like that at
Yeah,
all.
it was a good transition. Yeah, it was a good transition.
But that's even before I read The Dark Knight Returns or any of the Frank Miller
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, yeah, the Frank Miller
mean,
stuff.
that's-
Probably the most brutal depiction of Batman ever.
It's so good, though. So good. It's just such a game changer. Like, when you talk about, because I read The Dark Knight Returns, which is early 80s. Frank Miller re-envisions Batman as a 50-year-old man, kind of comes out of
And
retirement.
it totally works.
It's dark, it's menacing, it's violent. I read that maybe when I was like 18. So it was kind of like, I remember even going in the comic book shop and just being like, I need something different. I need something else.
Yeah.
Oh, Frank Miller will
the
deliver
month to
that
month
for
isn't
you.
doing it. And the girl, there was a girl behind the counter and she's just like, have you read this? And it's like, totally different world, and then kind of opened my eyes to that other world.
Yeah, and then Killing Joke came out like a year or two later.
Killing
I
Joke,
think
Alan
Killing
Moore.
Joke came out in 88, but Dark Knight Returns, that comic book reinvented Batman, I think, because everyone still in their mind had that, campy 60s Batman, because there
Right.
hasn't been anything since then that really came out. There's been some issues of the comic book that went dark, but
It
this
kind
is the
of went
first,
dark a little bit in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like this, no one had ever thought to even do Batman like this.
Yeah, and so
Just-
here comes this book. I think it was 4 issues that came out. Yeah, it was 4 issues,
I had 'em
and it was just like a dystopian future.
Right.
It was around the
like-
same time Watchmen came out, which we also have to
Yeah.
mention.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's
So
Well, let's see. We're almost a half hour in. Should we take a break and then get into some more kind
Yeah,
of
let's re-beer.
when comic books
Yeah.
go
Let's
adult?
beer up.
Yeah, let's get a beer and then we'll talk about the adult comics that we like and kind of the more intense adult stuff.
time
right?
to put the kiddie stuff to bed.
The kids are good. Yeah, send the kids to bed.
We're gonna get evil.
Spidey's not going to show up anymore.
We're gonna get medieval up in here.
I'm Charlie. That's Ben. That's Jason. This is Hops and Monsters. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Hops and Monsters. I'm Charlie.
I'm Ben.
We have
I'm
Jason in the studio. I always do that. They want to say their own name.
it's
And
just
then I
it's
say
weird.
their
It's like a
name.
reaction. It's
I know. And I say
I don't
they,
even like
he's
saying
not
my
sitting
name.
right here.
But, I guess it's what you do. So
And we are drinking beers. I've got the heroin IPA.
I am drinking the same thing that you are,
Jason's
Charlie.
got the heroin. You're still on your habaneros.
yeah, but I'm about done with this. I kind of fucked up and didn't grab another beer. Maybe I should.
Okay.
Should,
Why don't
should
I
we-
do some business?
All right,
And
yeah, I'll be right back.
you run, and then I'm going to say thank you, to The Left Hand of Creation for doing our theme music. That's Thomas and Patrick. Find them at The Left Hand of Creation. They're on SoundCloud and Facebook. Also, Anthony Garcia, our sound man. Thank you, Ant.
Yeah, Anthony.
You're the best. AnthonyGarciaAudio.com. Thumbs up. That's the website. Anthony, you're doing motion capture, audio recording, video game stuff right now. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Just while Ben's not here. So
I can't really say much on a legal basis, but I can say yes, I do.
today you worked on a video game.
Today I
with
worked
motion
on a video
capture
game.
stuff. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome.
I'm really digging it. So you tell me off mic what the game is, and then when that
I can't even tell you that.
you don't. Do you know?
I do know.
Okay.
I just can't tell anyone until
Okay.
the game.
Oh, man.
All right. Get out of here. Then.
So
Get off the
apparently,
mic.
if he
get off the mic,
he's gonna
get
get
off the
killed
mic.
if he tells us.
He can't tell us the game he's off.
Especially
Doesn't matter. Get off the mic. Get off the mic.
So don't get pissed
Sign
if
a
I say your game
non-disclosure
sucks.
agreement.
Okay?
Very cool. All right. Well, when you can tell us, please do, and then we'll all buy that video game, and then be like, it was okay. All right, but we're not talking video games today, anyways. We're talking comic books, and we talked about some childhood comic books, but I think it's time to get into what do you read now as an adult, as a 30, 40-something-year-old man? I mean, what are you reading comic books for these days? Ben? Jason?
Well,
Thoughts?
I just finished this one that Jason turned me on to by Garth Ennis. It's called Crossed, and
Yeah.
it's some pretty fucked up shit.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I have not read it, but I'm familiar with Garth from the Preacher comics. He
Preacher's
co-created
amazing.
Preacher, which is some pretty intense, heavy shit.
Yeah. Well, it's if you
Yeah.
want to get intense and heavy and just graphically violent, it's Crossed
Garth,
for the win.
I think Garth Ennis in general is your man. Yeah, exactly. So what's Crossed exactly? I
Well,
I have no idea.
the funny story about how I found out about Crossed was I went to our local comic book shop, and I'm just going to throw a shout out to Comics for the Win. Chris over at Comics for the Win. It's a great comic shop here. And everyone needs to go out and support local comic book shops because they sometimes are not doing the greatest right now. But because a lot of people are buying comics digitally now
Right.
than physically. But he's a great guy out there.
Where is that in Santa Rosa?
That's
right?
in Santa Rosa, yes.
Comics
So,
for the Win.
Comics for the Win.
Very cool.
And where's that located?
That is located on Santa Rosa Avenue. If anyone lives here in Santa Rosa, if everyone's listening, it's on Santa Rosa Avenue. It's I don't know the name of the shopping center it's in.
But they're online, right?
Oh yeah,
Google Comics for the
exactly.
Win or
Yeah,
something.
you can follow them on Instagram and Facebook
cool.
and whatnot. Anyways, so the funny thing about Cross
Opening
was
beers. Hold on. There we go.
there we go. Funny thing about Cross is, so I out of curiosity, I don't know why, I walked into a shop and I asked him. I said, okay, I wanted just to push the envelope. I wanted to have a shock value kind of thing. I said, what is the most fucked up comic book you have? Like, I've read comic books. I've read comic books that have been really kind of gruesome, but I just want to know what is the worst.
And he didn't point you to the first trade of Walking Dead because that's pretty fucked up.
No, this
Way more fucked up than the show.
No, I mean this book makes zombies look like kittens. I mean this.
Aw.
I mean I love zombies, but these.
And you love kittens.
Zombie kittens.
I love kittens
adorable.
too. But I'm saying
Elvis, you want a cookie?
I'm just saying that if I was in an apocalyptic world, I'd rather be with zombies than who these people are. So I mean, basically, I asked him, and he pointed to me a book. It was called Crossed.
Yeah.
Flipped through the pages of it, and I was really surprised at what I saw. I saw a lot of torture. I saw a lot of killing. Now, this for me was just like a shock value thing. I didn't go there going, oh my God, I need to find the worst comic book, the most disgusting, craziest comic book ever. I'm sick in the head.
But you did ask for the
But
most
you
fucked
did act
up.
for the most
Yeah,
fucked
I asked
up,
fucked up comic
sick
book.
and
In my
most comic
head,
book ever.
I wasn't going, I need the I'm so fucked up, I need some fucked up
You're
shit.
just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So basically, I was familiar with
Like
Cross.
an internet search. It was kind of like Google. What's the
Yeah,
most
like a
fucked up
train
thing out
crash.
there?
You just can't look away.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing about Cross is when I saw the cover, I was also familiar of Garth Ennis, like we were talking about earlier, who worked on Preacher. One of my favorite comic book graphic novels out there. It
which
doesn't make
is
that
a
anymore.
series now. On,
It's a series that just came out on
television.
AMC. They just went through the first season. Now they are taking a break, and they are coming with season 2. So it got such a buzz that it's.
Do you think everyone that watched Walking Dead started watching
Oh
Preacher?
yeah, exactly. I mean, they're almost similar in a way. I mean, but Preacher is a really good series. So I thought Garth Ennis he's a great writer in general.
Did you ever read? I was just going to ask you. Did you ever read The Boys? He did this. Series
I did
called
read The Boys. Yeah,
I like The Boys a lot.
The Boys is really good.
It's like superpower. Like, what if a bunch of asshole frat guys got superpowers? It's not good. Things don't go well there either.
Yeah.
He goes dark on that, but
Yeah.
So Crossed, is this pretty new?
Crossed.
Again, I really haven't heard
Well,
of it.
first it was published in 2008. It was written by Garth Ennis, and it was also drawn by artist Jason Burrows, and only for the first 10 issues.
Okay.
And the first 10 issues I have is a graphic novel, which is called Volume 1 Crossed, and that was pretty much the only work Garth Ennis worked on for Crossed. I don't know what he went on afterwards, but we had other artists come in and other writers who was working on the title. Sure. So basically, Crossed is about a pandemic outbreak, and it turns people into, through the infection, their worst instincts come out, like that human beings can think of, like murder, rape, cannibalism, all that most cruel and inventive kind of anything imaginable.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. So let's just say, for example, like
Good
people,
times.
like we have a conscience. So people who say, I'm not going to go into this bank and start blowing people away. Like there's
Right.
just no.
You wouldn't do that.
Unless you're a sick
You
individual.
wouldn't do that.
Cross is not the kind of comic book that you would cozy next to the fire, put on some slippers, put it on, pour a bottle of champagne and read it.
Sure.
It's just, unless you're a
That's
sick
exactly
individual.
how I read it today, though.
It's a
Sounds
sick
good,
individual.
Actually, yeah.
Then you're
You
a
know,
little
it was
messed
kind
up
of
then,
a
Ben.
Rainy day out
the
there.
piano
so
playing
I
in the background, and
I
yeah,
lit up the fireplace,
Cannibalism.
put on my slippers, and sat down and read me some Crossed.
Yeah, but basically it's just about an infection. It's almost kind of like 28 Days Later, except
Okay.
for these people.
But they don't turn into zombies; they just turn into
Just
crazy
turned complete
versions,
fucking psychos.
like the
So-
crazies, or
Or 28 Days Later.
right, just these feral kind
Yeah,
of
their
beasts.
urge is to get the hands on any normal person and commit every ghastly act they can think
Oh,
of.
good.
So I mean,
Uninhibited nerdery. As
so since Ben just finished the book,
Did you like it, Ben? What'd you think?
I was shocked for sure, but I enjoyed it. I thought, okay, kind of a little bit too brutal with the children just getting murdered for no good reason.
Yeah, because I mean, this is about a group of survivors that are trying to make their way to Alaska.
Yeah, and they're like, these kids aren't going to make it, so bam, 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 while they're sleeping, just
Yeah, they just get afraid, so they're running away from these people that are infected. And the reason why it's called Cross is these people have a cross rash.
they have this
in their face.
outbreak that appears on their face in the shape of a cross, and there's this
So-
biblical prophecy kind of thing going. It's we're all damned. The earth is turning into hell, and
Garth likes to
people
keep
are
it
basically
religious.
turning into
Yeah.
demons. And
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, these people who get infected.
Kind of like Preacher, but the road at the same time.
Oh, it absolutely
Yeah.
is like the
McCart-
road.
Yeah,
except
exactly.
if you instead of just killing somebody in the road, this time you stab them in the gut and you whip out your junk and you try to fuck them in the belly with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like they comprehend what's going on still. But
We did tell you to put the kiddies to bed before
Yeah.
the break.
Yeah, they're unimaginable killers.
I haven't seen violence
there you
this in your face and extreme since
And-
Faust. That's
I know.
Well, what's
yeah, that's
Faust? Hold on.
Oh, Faust came out in the it was published by North Star Publishing, and actually I noticed that Crossed came out on Avatar, which also has some offshoots of Faust.
Okay.
Faust is about this crazy ass killer that makes a deal with the devil, and he gets these Wolverine type claws and just goes to town, on a criminal organization in New York and
Oh, okay.
just chops them
Yeah.
the fuck up. And
Is
there's
that an older one? I'm not.
yeah,
I'm
it's
not
it's in
familiar
the probably the early 90s.
Okay.
I've got all the issues of it. There was only 13 issues published of it, but there's some offshoots,
with it. All right.
and it's pretty brutal. Made by Tim Vigil, drawn
Okay.
and written by Tim Vigil, and
Cool.
Anthony Quinn, I think, is actually the writer.
Hmm.
I've got the trades. I'll loan them to you if you want to check it out.
Please
but
do,
it's
yeah.
seriously disgusting stuff.
Well, you've lent me trades of Grendel. We briefly
Yeah, Matt
mentioned
Wagner's
earlier.
Grendel, not the the first.
Well, yeah, not Beowulf.
not Beowulf. No.
But Matt Wagner, yeah, who's a big shot.
I don't know
now.
why they haven't made a movie of Grendel yet, because he was really the first true anti-hero. He was an enforcer
Very
for the
much.
mob and also a best-selling author named Hunter Rose.
Right,
in his
right.
day-to-day life.
Kind of like it was kind of like if
He was a
Batman was
master
working for the
fencing
bad
champion
guys,
and-
right? It was,
yeah.
It's like he's a.
He
yeah.
didn't care who he
Not a
killed.
nice guy.
He, but the thing about Grendel is that once Hunter Rose dies, fairly early on in the series, whoever takes up the mask of Grendel and his weapon called the Fork, which is a staff with two blades at the end, and also called the Devil's Teeth, they turn into Grendel. They become possessed by kind of like Venom, with Batman
interesting.
in the costume, and so. there's this whole timeline of Grendel that stretches from like the early 1970s all the way up until the year 3000 or something.
Right. Yeah, I remember reading some you gave me that was like very futuristic.
Yeah.
Almost
There's like a
Judd,
whole cult that pops up around this Grendel figure, and then he has this whole army of Grendels.
which is going to bring me to my next favorite character, Judge Dredd.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, 2000 AD.
Who
and
is just-
if you're going to say Judge Dredd, I'm going to
I
counter
am
you
the
with
law.
martial law.
Martial Law, which
By Pat Mills.
I did read because you gave me that trade. Martial Law is
That is
beautiful.
badass.
That's very much. I mean, the anti-hero. I mean, that's what's so great about the comic books is like they really allow these writers who write about heroes to get into the darker side.
Yeah,
the
he
anti-hero.
hunts heroes. That's
Yeah.
what martial law does.
Right.
It's like superheroes in the future have gotten out of control and too maniacal and too Trump-like, and so they martial law comes in to save the day.
where is he now?
we need
you.
martial law, man.
We need you, martial law. Okay. Any other recommendations for?
We got to talk about Walking Dead.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're gonna,
yeah,
I want to talk
okay.
about Walking
Let's
Dead.
do that.
So obviously everyone knows what Walking Dead is. If you don't know what Walking Dead
Why are you
is,
even listening to this show?
It's pretty much a phenomenon at this point. Yeah, I remember when the show came out, and I had already read, that comic series started in like 2002 or 3, so it had already been around for like 7-8 years.
yeah,
And that show's been around since 2010.
I know, but
Can you believe that? I'm
yeah.
like,
what's
I think it's on
unbelievable
its 7th
is
season
it's
right now.
crazy.
the comic book is so much more brutal than the show. If you think the show is brutal and you haven't read the comic book, damn, you're missing out.
yeah, the comic book's great, and I remember reading that just thinking, wow, they're
That
getting
is
away
some
with
fucked up shit.
Yeah, Robert Kirkman, who I love. Robert Kirkman, who wrote and created The Walking Dead. I was a fan of his when he did Battle Pope. Did you ever read Battle
No,
Pope?
what the
I haven't
hell
heard of
is
that
that?
one.
Oh my God, you guys! This is
Battle
the one I
Pope?
get to tell
I
you
like
about.
this.
Battle Pope is like Robert Kirkman's version of the Pope as the anti-hero, going around chewing on cigars, sleeping with women, fighting demons, and his sidekick, JC, the big man.
Wait, isn't Jude Law doing a Pope movie? Or Pope
Oh, there's
series?
the young Pope. Yeah,
Where he's kinda doing the
not
same
the
thing.
same, not the same. No, not the same. JC, Jesus Christ as the sidekick, who's like a flip flop sandal wearing hippie, and he's got a
Perfect.
shirt that says "What would I do?" You got to read Battle Pope. It
Oh
is
my God, do you have it?
perfect. Oh gosh,
Do you
Yeah,
have a
I gotta
trade?
read that too. If you ever,
you got to. I'll find it. I'll find it if I have it.
That
still.
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But then he goes on to create The Walking Dead, which is the this century's zombie story. I mean, at this point, right? It's
it's Millennials' Night of the Living Dead.
It
for sure.
is. Yeah, it's what
it's
what
actually
the kids think of.
also developed by Frank Darabont, who's a director and a screenwriter.
Right,
He's
the
also
show,
worked,
yeah.
So he's worked on like The Blob, The Fly 2, Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Oh yeah, all those.
So
He also
basically-
he directed a lot of Stephen King novels too.
So no
but-
good movies.
well,
No. He did. He directed Shawshank Redemption.
I was gonna say he did
Oh,
Shawshank.
really? Okay.
He
That's
directed
okay,
The
yeah.
Mist. He directed Green Mile. So,
okay, that's legit.
And Darabont did this show on TNT really briefly called Mob City, or there's some kind of. So he does like noir mob kind of stuff as well. But yeah, The Walking Dead. It's I don't know. It's been hard for me to keep up on the show because of just everything. But are you still watching?
I'm still watching the
Is
show
the
right
show
now. It's
still
actually
good?
gotten a lot of people right now are not liking it because it's a little draggy and slow.
Okay. Well, the comic book was here and there too. I mean, Kirkman's whole thing about The Walking Dead was that it's supposed to never end. Like there is no big. It's kind of like this is what I read. He said this. It reflects life. There is no end. There's no grand finale. There's these big moments that happen, but then you have to keep going.
It's just survival.
You wake up the
101.
next day, and what are you going to do that day? And how are you
Yep.
going to survive
Living
that day?
moment to moment,
And
day
what
to
are you
day.
going to eat next?
Like
And
I already do.
Exactly. So it is. It's almost like anticlimactic on purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of sets it apart for me. But those first issues of The Walking Dead, I
No, I mean the
definitely
comic.
remember reading
Yeah,
it and just
the
thinking,
comic
I've never
is
seen anything
very
like this.
different than the show. I mean, there's people that are alive and in the comic book right now that have been dead in the show for seasons.
Right. Yeah.
So they changed characters differently. To me, the comic book is a lot better. Character development is a lot better in the comic book.
Sure.
You feel more for these characters. I think people in general who see these movies and watch these shows, they probably started out watching these the shows and the movies. They have not ever picked up a comic book and read them.
Yeah.
So we're on this huge fad right now of everything comic book related, and we live in a world this day where we get to see this stuff. Like when I was a kid, I would totally imagine what it'd be like to see if Spider-Man was swinging through the buildings, and now we get to see that kind of stuff. So Walking Dead was another one because a lot of it is page from page to screen. I'm like, this is exactly. I know it's going to happen because I've already read
what
it.
happens to Michonne? God damn.
Yeah, what happens to Michonne is completely. They didn't show
harsh,
that
man.
in the
I don't
show.
think they could show that on TV.
No, it was pretty crazy. But
Poor woman.
a lot of people think the show's going downhill, but I still think it's staying strong. It's gotten to a point right now where it's following the comic book very, very well.
Okay.
And I'm still enjoying it. So it's a very great show, and it's
Nice.
still a very great comic book. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just it's funny because as you're saying that, it makes me think of when you're following these stories. We used to follow comic books on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're following shows on a weekly basis. Now I'm just watching Netflix and binging on Daredevil in one day. It's like that teasing out of the next time you see the chapter, the next time you get the story. It's like we used to follow these stories for 2-3 years, these single storylines.
Yeah, we had to
in
wait
the
once
comic
a
books,
week to fucking watch it. Now we can
But
do
like
it in the weekend.
think about reading the X-Men in the 80s, when with Executioner's Song or some giant crossover thing would happen. It's like it would take like 6 months for this one.
The story.
Yeah, you're
story
biting
to
your
go
nails,
through.
going, I want the next issue right now.
Right, and now it's like, well, that'll happen in a season, and you'll see that, or you can just binge it. I don't know. Just a thought. All right, should I catch up on the Walking? I guess I'll catch up on the Walking.
You should need to catch up on it because
I'll
I
catch
think
up
Ben, you're not even caught up with it, and
No, I missed the last 2 seasons. but
That's about for me too.
Yeah.
The last 2 or 3 seasons, it's just
when it
one of
comes on
those-
Netflix, then I'll watch it. But I'm not gonna.
I think
Pay
I
more
think it's
money
caught
for
up though. I
AMC.
think it's already caught up to season 6 on Netflix.
Well, I'll check it out then.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
You got your homework.
it's not going anywhere. Let's just say the show's going to live on, and
I've just
and
got
reruns
so much stuff
and,
I've got to
yeah.
watch for this fucking podcast.
But I suggest people that love this show to read the comic book because it's amazing.
That's a good way to
I
put it.
think Robert Kirkman
If you like
is
the
doing
show,
a
read the comic book.
great job. Charlie Adler, who does the art, he's an amazing artist, and I don't know when the book is going to end. I think they're past issue like 130 or something right now.
I think
But
they're in the 160s.
160s?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Hey, didn't
It
you
just
tell me
keeps
that
going.
Riley had like the first issue and it was like $1,000? That's what it goes for somewhere.
I think he had one. If everyone's wondering who Riley is, he's my friend that lives out in Oakland.
He works at Excalibur Comics in Portland, world famous comic book
Yeah,
shop.
if Ben's calling me the guru of comic books, this guy.
Actually, Riley is the guru.
Yeah,
we
he-
can't get him
I
on the
love
All
it.
right,
podcast.
thank you for your time, Jason. We're gonna get Riley on the.
No, but he, he's right. I think he doesn't own it, but
That's
Because
fine.
His
me and him-
roommate Ben Martin's no slouch either with comics. He works there as well.
yeah, it's just like you walk into Riley's room.
If
It's
you're in Portland, go to Excalibur.
boxes
for sure.
and boxes of comic books. But I think
Nice.
getting off track really quick, Portland has the greatest selection of comic book stores I've ever seen. Either it's just amazing.
I'll agree.
It's
with
comic
that.
book heaven if you go to Portland.
It's
Yeah.
nerd heaven in
Yeah.
Portland. Yeah.
Not only
in general.
fucking record stores and awesome bars on every corner,
the
comic book
the
stores.
pinball bar, ground control, arcade pinball bar. Yeah, you're good. You're set if you're in Portland and a nerd. But well, okay, you were just pointing at because we have a whole stack of comics. At
We
got to
talk about
here.
this.
We got to talk about Alan Moore. I think in general,
Oh,
right?
God.
We got to
Because
talk about Killing Joke.
The Killing Joke is just one of those. It's a Batman story. It's a Joker, or I mean the bulls on this guy, Alan Moore, to give the Joker an origin story. 70 years after he was created. That to me is just like
Yeah.
And what he makes the Joker do
the bulls.
is just
Well, I mean,
you
Alan
almost
Moore-
feel bad for him. You almost sympathize with the Joker.
you can understand why that
Yeah.
would drive
It's
him
crazy.
completely insane.
It's such a bizarre story. It's
yeah,
great
Alan Moore
art.
does it a good job. I mean, because his work on Watchmen and V for Vendetta and even
yeah.
Swamp Thing, he worked on
And League
Swamp
of
Thing.
Extraordinary
Thing.
Gentlemen, the comic book, not the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Forget the movie even existed. All right.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the movie, was so bad that Alan Moore forever has taken his name off of any movie
He
based
Alan
on
Smithied
his.
it, right? Like David
Well,
Lynch.
yeah. So when you watch Watchmen, the movie, which is not a terrible movie.
But it's still nothing like the comic book.
But in the opening credits it says based on the DC comic
Because
drawn
they totally
by.
changed the ending.
It doesn't say Alan Moore anywhere, and that's because
And Zack
League of
Snyder's a
Extraordinary-
good
such
director. I like what he
terrible
did with
movie.
300. I mean, he
I
adapted.
kind of like Watchmen. I don't think it's terrible. The ending,
Yeah,
It's
Watchmen
not
was
terrible,
great.
but it
the
had,
ending's messed up, but because they changed the ending dramatically. But
Yeah.
I think he got the tone pretty decently. But Alan Moore is the one comic book writer who he really just does whatever the fuck he wants. He doesn't care. He'll write this 30-page Batman story that becomes the most popular Batman story, outside
well, with
of
good
Dark
reason.
Knight
There's
Returns.
probably never. This is a definitive Batman story. At least Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At least with the Joker.
Well, and it sent waves. I mean, Barbara Gordon's character is forever changed because of this one.
he shoots her in the spine,
issue.
paralyzes her, rapes her,
Spoiler
takes
alert.
pictures of it.
You know-
That's a question if
you
he
know
rapes
what?
her.
Thank you. I don't think that. I don't
I
think
think
he
he
does.
did.
I don't think he ever.
I actually.
I think he just.
That's up for question right now because people.
No.
He took. Okay, so basically,
While he's wearing a Hawaiian
Basically, the Joker shows up at Barbara Gordon, Batgirl's apartment, shoots her in such a way that paralyzes her, and then I think he takes photos. He
takes off all her
humiliates.
he takes her
clothes.
clothes off because the reason why he
Well,
did
yeah.
this, I mean, it was a way to get Gordon because he kidnaps Gordon right afterwards.
He wants
right?
to break him.
So he wants, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He wants to break Gordon, so he puts him through this crazy fun house, and he puts all the photos of Barbara Gordon on like the wall, so he can see these photos of his daughter naked, bleeding from a
That's
gunshot
why I think
wound.
he raped her, just to even add.
And the Joker's main
more
source of this
fucking
was to
insult to
drive
injury.
him insane because he wanted to prove that the Joker is legitimately insane for a reason. That anybody
Right.
can have, say, a bad day and just go insane.
It's like a. I think I don't think he raped her either. I think he was just trying to. Humiliate or otherwise exploit. But
see, that's
But
what's-
I don't see the Joker as a sexual character, like in any regards. Like I don't see him.
I think he would do it with
being able
only-
to perform. I mean, you're in that vat of acid. I don't think.
I don't think he would get
anything's
off on
happening
doing
after
it.
that.
yeah.
I think he did it to
we
make
don't know
a
if it's
point.
gone.
Just because this is the most fucked up way to defile someone's daughter you could possibly. I mean, you might as well.
Well,
be
that's the Joker,
cross.
though. I mean, the Joker
but it
doesn't
might be
give a
even more
shit.
fucked up to make someone think you did that without. I mean, you can just I
Well,
think
therein lies the
I don't
genius
know.
of Alan Moore. We
You know
don't
what?
really
Honestly,
know.
That's true. 30 years later,
Yeah.
we're debating whether or not something happened off page.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like, did Han
honestly-
Solo shoot first or Greedo?
Yeah.
We still
at
don't know.
And at the end of the Killing Joke, it almost looks like Batman is laughing with the Joker.
He is.
Right? It's such a bizarre.
No, there's actually something about that
it
ending
proves
too.
they're both insane.
Yeah.
That ending actually, there has been skeptics who think that Batman kills the Joker. He snaps his neck because the last panel is of him laughing. He's holding Joker's neck, and then
No,
the
he's
laughing
just holding him on the shoulder to steady himself because he's laughing so hard.
See,
Well,
no.
there's a perception of
Controversy.
anybody
It's
can
like they're
think of.
bond. It's a
Controversy.
bonding
But I-
moment for the two of them there.
There's people thinking like he killed him. There's people who don't think he killed him. But Alan Moore just left that open for interpretation. He's like, you come up
That's
with
what he does best.
So, I mean, this is pretty much to me the definitive Joker story because
Oh,
this
it is.
is his origin. In a way, this is Alan Moore's way of writing his origin story. And
I don't even. Think
we
he
don't know much
intended
about
that.
the Joker as I mean, to me, he's the most famous. He's my favorite villain of all time, and he's a mystery. He's a complete mystery to a lot of people.
And I think just to bounce off of that, that's why Christopher Nolan in The Dark Knight purposefully has the Joker tell two different origin stories because he is the mystery. He's confusing. He blames it on the ex-wife or the father in the movie. You're not supposed to know where he came from. You're not supposed to know what drives him to where he is. He's just supposed to be that personification of insanity. And then Alan Moore, gives him this very real human kind of
Now,
background story.
Speaking of insanity and Batman in general, this leads us into Arkham.
oh, Arkham Asylum.
Right. Now,
Oh man!
Now
Yeah.
this story, this gets insanely dark for Batman because Joker pretty much puts him through hell here and says, "You've belonged here all along with us."
Yeah, The
You
art
know?
in that Dave
God,
McKean
it's
did
so
the art
crazy. It's
in
like
that.
paintings.
It's that to me, yeah, that is where comics really show the power of the storytelling.
And this is Grant Morrison writing this.
Grant Morrison wrote it, yeah. I think Dave McKean drew it. Dave McKean
Yep.
did all those covers for the Sandman series,
Yep.
which we haven't even gotten into the Sandman yet. You know what? Let's just not even talk about
Yeah,
the
this is
Sandman
gonna have to
because
be a
that's going to be its own
two-parter
episode.
for,
Yeah, for sure.
There's so much stuff to talk about with these titles. It's like it's a whole story.
We'll have
so-
to have you back again for comics
Yeah,
part 2.
of course we
Oh,
can.
yeah.
we'll
like
do a second
every,
one,
Because
but,
we
yeah,
just scratched the surface here.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I definitely think though once again that The Killing Joke is pretty much my favorite Batman story besides Dark Knight Returns, and it's a little weird because a movie just came out, an animated movie just came out for The
Right.
Killing Joke,
Which
and
has
it was
caused a lot of controversy.
yes because the book, the way the movie starts is basically it's all. I think the first half hour is all about Barbara Gordon. It's all about Batgirl. That was not in the book. So they had to kind of bring her character up so you have a reason to feel sympathy for her when she gets shot. The only thing that people have been complaining about this movie,
But it's a big complaint.
and it's a very big
and
complaint,
I think it's a valid complaint.
yes, is the fact that Batgirl and Batman have sex.
So maybe Batman raped her and not
No,
the Joker.
No.
Ridiculous.
It actually looks
the
like
whole thing's ridiculous.
she's
No.
really attracted to him, and it almost seems like in a way that they were having an argument on top of a rooftop,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden out of nowhere, she pushes Batman down the floor, and
Okay, so
she's-
she raped Batman then. So
Well,
oh, I don't know if it was rape. It was just
No,
more
no, no.
I'm
like.
saying rape way too much.
but
Yeah.
but
I think you're reading too much Cross, dude. I think that's what's going on.
yeah. But no,
I
honestly,
just finished it. Literally,
that's kind of the thing. Like the Batman series, I don't like when people add all this sexuality into it because
No,
to me,
I mean-
it's not sexual. And yeah, in that animated movie, it was like, well, we don't want Barbara Gordon just to be this woman who gets shot for no reason, blah blah blah. So we'll give her a backstory, but the backstory they gave her is totally not an empowering. Like,
No, it
Well,
was
they have to
very
give Batman a
heroic
reason to be
backstory.
pissed off enough to want to.
Well, that's what. So right. So Batman.
But we don't really
in the
need that.
comic book, Commissioner Gordon gets kidnapped. Batman goes after Gordon to save him. So in the movie, they change it almost so that Batman is motivated by his love or
because he
lust
got it on with Barbara Gordon.
of Gordon. Yeah, and to me, that's
Fell flat.
if you want to see the definitive Barbara Gordon story, you watch the 2-part Shadow of the Bat animated series
Yeah,
episode
exactly.
where her character is introduced and she fights off Two-Face and his goons. Perfect 2-part
Yeah.
series. That's a great episode. But yeah, so I don't like that new. I don't like.
No,
what they
I
did
don't
with that
either.
new-
It's
that new
the
movie.
only thing I like about the film is that the last part of it is actually based on the book. So it was almost like
Right.
from
kind of most of the rest of the movie is pretty accurate, but they've.
And we have Mark
again,
Hamill. Mark Hamill's back as a Joker, and
I mean,
Kevin
the Killing
Conroy.
Joke it's about what 30 pages. It's a thin book.
Yeah.
It's barely anything. It's like a single issue
It's
kind
a
of
total one shot.
Yeah. Thank you. The one shot. Yeah. It's kind of surprising that they even thought to turn it
I can't
into a
believe
movie at all.
DC even published it.
Well,
because
actually, the
it's-
movie was
at the
rated
time.
R. It was rated R movie,
Oh yeah.
and I just mentioned Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy are
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
As,
They do the voices.
So-
It's worth it for that. But again, actually I haven't looked. And I didn't think to look, but I bet Alan Moore's name is not on that movie.
I actually didn't even check that either. I seen the
I bet
movie
in
once.
the credits it's not. I bet it just says based on the comic book drawn.
Because
by
if he
Brian
saw that
Bollard-
movie and saw
Boland.
that scene, he's like, "Wait, I didn't write this."
Yeah,
He
he'd
put
be
in
like,
Killing
"What is
Joke,
this
but
I'm
bollocks?"
sure he would have been disappointed. In
Yeah.
it. You know, I mean, Alan Moore's not a happy guy, and not really. I don't think he's happy with any of the adaptations
He
of
is
his work.
not easily satisfied. No, and that's the thing. And From Hell, again, the balls.
From Hell is actually a great
The
film.
balls on this guy. He writes the Jack Ripper story. He makes up his own Jack Ripper. Like, it was
It's
this guy.
Totally plausible though.
And the movie was okay, but
The movie's fucking
I
great.
wonder if he kept his name on V for Vendetta. I
I don't
mean,
even think he did that. I didn't think that movie kind of fell flat for me as opposed to the
the
series.
book was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
man.
have the original first printings of those issues.
Man, Ben's swimming in cash right now like Scrooge McDuck.
yeah, you have no idea the value
Well,
in your
I'm
house.
fucking like a
Take out
decade
take out
older
an
than both of
insurance
you,
policy.
so I was able to buy these things when they were being published. You know,
You're a lucky man. You're a lucky man. Yeah, those Dark Knight Returns single issues. I found a couple of those in a used bookshop once. It was just like, yoink.
I find a lot of my comic books, honestly, at flea markets.
Yeah.
People don't know what they had. They sell it for a certain price.
Didn't you sell one for like $1,000 recently?
Yeah, I actually, I had a first appearance of Thanos from Marvel Comics.
Oh, wow.
And it was an Iron Man issue, I believe, 55, I believe it was from.
And you bought it at a flea market?
No, I didn't buy it at the flea market. I bought it at a comic book shop, God, maybe when I was like 17, 18, because I loved Infinity Gauntlet, but that's a whole other story. And
I was just going to say that you probably could have sold that comic in 2 more years.
No, I know, but yeah, the thing is that
out.
because of the Marvel movies right now, and
Yeah.
Thanos is the main villain right now, it's pumped up the volume. So I sold it on eBay to a guy for $1,200.
Ooh.
Damn, nice.
So people will pay this
Nice.
much money for like a comic book. This is just all that matters is first appearances and the first issue of a comic book, and there you go. And it's a global market right now where it's just gone up and up and up. And as you were saying earlier, Charlie, it's like for me though, it's an awesome hobby, but I can't afford it anymore. It's just I'm not going to spend like $100 on a comic book and I let it sit in a box.
Yeah, you got to just buy us the trades at this point, right? And just
That's
just
the
buy
only
the
way I can
trades.
afford it. I can afford to borrow the trades that you guys have.
There you go. Well, you borrow some of mine. I'm going to borrow some of yours. I'll borrow some of yours. I'm going to borrow that Cross.
Yeah,
right
you got to
now.
read it.
Yeah.
You don't get too disturbed
show
by it.
your
The
fiance
only thing I got to
that.
say about Cross, though, it's really not a nonfiction book. This is actually a futuristic version of Trump's first year in office. And what the world's going to come to. So this is just a close.
Well,
it's a warning. It's pretty much a warning. So
Well,
just be
okay,
prepared.
there you go. On that note, I'm Charlie.
I'm Ben.
That's
Jason.
Jason. This has been Hops and Monsters. We're out of here. We're going to talk comics another time, but we got to get going.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for
I hope to
coming
come
on.
back
Thank you.
again.
Yeah, man.
Thank you
We're
for
going to
coming
do
on
this
comic
again
books.
for sure.
Find us on Facebook. Find us on Twitter. We're going to start YouTubing, I think, in a little bit. hopsandmonsters@gmail.com. Write us. Love us.
Make love to Ben while you're at it.
What's the thing Stanley always said in his...
Excelsior.
Excelsior!